Um, okay, guys. I am super excited about Essentials 2. Essentials 2 is always really fun for me and for you guys, I think, because we end up really starting to flesh out the dog's understanding of the things that we've introduced in Essentials 1, but we also can take it to the next level and start actually making these skills reliable enough for real life situations. And then we're also going to be doing our deep dives into loose leash walking, stay, and come, all of those super, super important things. So today is mostly about kind of understanding how to get a handle on anything you've still been struggling with since Essentials 1. The other things is just kind of talking about how to set ourselves up for success with some of these more advanced skills. We do these advanced skills in Essentials 2, not in Essentials 1, because the goal is really to make sure that they have the prerequisites and the foundation to do them successfully, and then also making sure that you guys know how to help them be successful at home, because there's a lot of scenarios where these skills sneak in and they start degrading before you even had a chance to actually teach them to our dogs. So I'm going to give you guys some management ideas of like things that you can do at home so that you're not taking 2 steps forward in class and 1 step backwards at home. It's just kind of ending up in the same spot every time. So I'm going to give you kind of some recipe style ideas for kind of how to think about these skills, because they are not easy things. These are the tough ones, but they're the ones that we actually really need in real life with our dogs. Getting them to walk nicely and coming when they're called, those are really important ones. Do you guys want to just give me a little like update on how your dogs have been since I've seen them last? Some of them I've seen really recently, some of them I haven't seen so recently. I'd love to know like how they're doing and what you feel like they need to work on. Claire, can you give me an update about Miss Molly?
Yeah, she's doing well. I've noticed in the last few months she's becoming a lot more vocal about things. Like I think I had mentioned the barking a couple times.
It was starting.
Yeah, it's gotten worse.
Okay.
Especially like anytime we're in the car and we arrive anywhere, she just goes off. Like I don't know if she even sees anything or she just is like, okay, this is my cue to bark. But like we get to work and she sees anything and starts barking her head off, and then I'm embarrassed because she's like barking at a coworker or at a client or something. And
right. Yeah. Not ideal.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't let me forget, before you leave, I have the ideal handout for you for that scenario. Okay. We have a whole handout that we call the CAR protocol, which is designed for that type of barking. That is usually excitement and adrenaline based. But the problem is, no matter what you do in that moment, if we get out of the car and get on with our lives, like go for a hike or go to work or whatever, she thinks barking is how we move on to that next step. So we have to kind of tweak that order of operations in her brain.
She does it at home too. Like she just seems pretty sensitive to noises at home. Like even if she's chilling her crate and she hears something outside, like she just kind of explodes.
Okay, so maybe that one might be a little bit different. And she's 10 months now? And what about Miss Birdie? I've seen Birdie recently, but tell me what you feel like she needs to work on.
I mean, I'd say in general, like barking is definitely one we're struggling with a little bit too, like barking at things that she's hearing outside, which, we keep the windows down, we try and do all those management things, but just, I feel like if she hears something, she'll bark. And then like barking at the TV, anytime there's any movement, which is like everything.
Oh yeah.
So that's hard. And then like barking at dogs and cats and things when we're out on walks. I feel like she's been getting a little better at that one. We're trying to like keep our distance, do all the kind of management techniques, but still definitely struggling with that a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. Still working on the puppy biting a little bit.
Yeah.
And then I think just like some of the things from Essentials 1, like her place, just being able to stay there longer. We're still like, she still wants to get up.
Okay.
Any other things? Yeah, I feel like those are kind of the just overall excitability still is just like the impulse control kind of seeps into all of the things, I think.
And she's just over 8 years.
Yes.
Got it.
Right. She's doing good.
What?
She's doing good otherwise.
Yeah. What about Mr. Wally?
He's doing pretty well. I would say the biggest obstacles we have now are I think that the licky stuff is not working as well as it once did. It doesn't
interesting.
calm him as
Okay.
much as it once did. Like you could give him something to lick for an extended period of time and it would kind of settle him down. But now he licks and then just gets right back up and goes crazy doing whatever he was doing before.
Does it keep him busy as long, or is he just going through it faster?
I think he's going through it
That's what I
faster.
was wondering. Yeah.
So maybe I need to change up the licky mat or something. And that's the other thing is I give him the Kong with things in it because the licky mats he inevitably will like rip and kind of eat. So I can't really give him a licky mat without being right on top of him.
Yeah.
Jumping up.
Oh, gosh.
Jumping up on people, doing a lot. I'm trying to do a lot of treats on the floor when people come in, new
Good.
people, even my kids.
Yeah.
But again, it's one of those things where he eats the treat so quickly and he goes immediately back up to jumping on people. And so I'd like to maybe not have the follow-up jump.
Right, right. That kind of defeats the purpose.
Yeah, it kind of defeats the purpose. And then I would just say the last thing is just my other dog, my older dog, he just really won't leave her alone. And she makes it clear after being sweet with him, it's not like they don't enjoy time together, but
Yeah.
she makes it clear like I want my own space or whatever. And he just will not give it
He's
to
like,
her. So
no.
no. Oh my
Yes,
gosh.
we're very good at adorable attention seeking behaviors.
Did she come with those or did she? like-
She did come with those, aren't they special?
Oh my goodness.
Yes, you did. And because they're extremely adorable and you can't help but react to it, they've
Yeah.
gotten stronger.
That would be so hard.
It's really hard. And I'm gonna fully admit, I like it. And I think it's really cute, but it does get sometimes annoying.
It strikes a pose.
She does.
Oh,
You can go visit. You can visit, Heather. You wanna visit? He's like, no, I want you to give me another treat for being cute. Okay. And what about Miss Sparky?
Okay,
Any particular skills you want to practice?
the general course outside specifically.
You need, yeah, she needs to do those skills outside.
That's
Yeah.
her massive weakness. Is she's had multiple escapes in the last month, like 4 or 5 or 6 or 8 freedom runs.
Okay.
And it's a huge problem.
Yeah.
She's getting slightly easier to get back, and I'd like to make it even easier and easier. So the more we practice outside, hopefully that will transfer. So far, it hasn't over the course of several years. But as of tomorrow morning, we're having permanent gates installed on our deck. 2 gates, including the one that she jumped over yesterday, will be a permanent one.
Right. Okay, good.
So yeah.
Yeah. And you've taken this class at least once before, right? I'm gonna let you kind of decide based on how distracted she is in here on any given day. If you feel like she's not distracted enough, take the long line and just go do them outside.
Okay.
Just like poke your head back in when, you know, you can tell when we're changing exercises, but I want you to take full advantage of that if you need to, because I know you and she both know the skills in the building and she's spot on in the building, but if you feel like she's not getting enough challenge, maybe you could even have a station just right there and sneak in and out.
Okay. I like that, and I'll need troubleshooting because she does have the ability to switch off her brain. So when the
Well,
distractions,
brain switches off, you come back in the building.
okay, got it.
Hard line. Okay. Sarah, update me about little guy.
He's just so wonderful.
He is so wonderful. He's wiggle butt wonderful.
Yeah, I guess my desire for continuing classes is mainly to make myself more interested and just set us up to do fun things together.
Yeah, that's
Going
very
through
cool.
those days where he can be independent, but mostly he just likes doing stuff. And I don't know, I'm into that too.
Yeah, that is a great goal. I love that stuff too. And Mr. Rigel, I saw him yesterday at the birthday party.
I'm kind of in your boat with Sarah, and we love doing things outside. And he's starting to click on some of the stay and waits and the comes.
Good.
We haven't done a lot of real life scenarios, but the Lane and I were talking about doing the ping pong outside with the long line to
Mhm.
start practicing some more
Great.
distracted comes. At least walking, we're still working on loose leash, partly because Rigel can truck. He's got legs,
Mhm.
and so his walk is almost my run.
Yep. Okay.
And again, keeping making sure that I'm interesting enough that he, when on command, he turns around and looks at us versus continuing on the path that he's on.
Okay.
Because sometimes he can get real interested in other things and not, that brain turns off.
Yeah. And I think that that's a really common theme for all the dogs at this stage, not only for their age, but also their stage as far as like their training level, is that what we're, when you guys are saying like he gets distracted or I really want to work on his better attention, that is really a lot of, we're going to talk about this a lot in this class, is teamwork, building what I call teamwork and work ethic. Is that's the for lack of a better term, brainwashing part of positive reinforcement dog training, is like we set ourselves up so the dog thinks it's always worth it to do what we want for them to do. And that's super important when it comes to recall. So we're going to talk about kind of sneaky and smart ways of doing that so that it's less work for you and the dog is always actively choosing what you want for them to do because we've set it up that way appropriate. Okay. So did everybody get my email okay? I always like to check in. Everybody got the email? Okay. So things that I want for you guys to kind of think about for this class is just, we always want to make sure that in particular, we're thinking about these skills, stay, come, and leash walking. We want to make sure that our responses to the dog are consistent and predictable. And that is what is going to make your dog's responses consistent and predictable. Okay, so by that I mean, we need to be really careful about how and when and where we say come, so that we are making sure the dog's actually going to be successful. Because if we say come in a scenario that's too hard for our dog, that's like one tick mark on the tried but not successful side of the board, right? And we want as many tick marks as possible on the dog heard the word come, thought it was amazing, got a giant reward for it, and just thought it was the best thing ever. Right? Free. Yeah, she's vocal. This is the only scenario where she does demand vocalizing. So if you hear her being a little bit noisy, I'm just going to get up and release her and then put her back. Good girl, Freddie. Parker. So one of the things that I want for you guys to like think about is that if you are consistent and predictable in how you respond to your dog every single time, they are going to start becoming consistent and predictable in how they respond. And so we want to make sure that we have the ability to always reward our dog. That part's the easier part. But the other part is remembering that it's up to us to prevent rehearsal of the stuff we dislike. And so that is still in positive reinforcement, what we call management, where we are setting the dog up to be successful just simply by limiting some options at this stage, because they are not reliable enough that we could, take them off the leash and have them playing with a bunch of other dogs and then call them and they would come right away. Right? Like we know that would be too hard. And so we're not going to put them in that scenario and expect a recall. You could put them in that scenario and just not say the word, right? You could go do a gotcha. That would be a management solution in that scenario. You could put them in that scenario and just wait for them to choose to come back on their own and reward them for that. Right? Or you could put them in that scenario and just go get them. Right? They're instead of actually calling them out of that scenario, because it's not likely that you would be able to call them out of that scenario. If you've been practicing a ton and you want to take the risk, that's okay to do. But what you're going to do is wait to make sure that they actually have stopped moving and are looking at you. And then you might try it. But we have to remember that that's a gamble. And if we're taking that gamble, you have to remember that if you take the gamble and it doesn't work, that's a tick mark over here. And now you've got to do a little bit of extra practice and work to get a couple more tick marks over here to make up for the whoopsie we just did. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, and so a lot of times we enter this stage of training and we already have a lot of tick marks over here. And so you may even need to, that's Spork. Spork has class after this, so she's hiding in the back. So you may already be starting with a bunch of tick marks over here. And so that means you're gonna have to do a lot of practice without distractions to build it up. And then you could try taking a few more risks. Okay. So that's going to be involved with your loose walking, with your stay, but pretty much with anything that we're teaching our dogs. What we're trying to do is make sure that we're building teamwork and work ethic so the dog wants to do what we're asking them to do. They're not just getting the right answer by accident. Okay? Is that we're setting it up so that they're getting the right answer because we have strategically set the scenario up for their success at this stage. Okay. So I wanted to go through, do you guys have any questions about that? Okay. If you find that your dog is, like Spork is running out of the house and escaping, right? We put up baby gates and new gates. We're like going to physically fortify things in some way, shape, or form. If you're having a hard time figuring out how you can prevent bad behaviors, those are questions for me. I want you to bring those questions to me because that is just as important as choosing the right treat. Is that we have to make sure that we are making sure the dog doesn't have the opportunity to run around off leash and get themselves into trouble. So, I mean, and there's still scenarios where I'm working with Freddie out on a hike and I'm like, girlfriend, you're going back on a leash. And that happens before she decides to run off. But I'm just noticing maybe a slight decrease in her overall responsiveness, or she's looking a little overexcited about something. And I'm not taking any risks. I'm just like, that leash is going to go on for 20 minutes and then we're going to reevaluate. So it's about making sure that you feel that you can set a boundary and set them up for success so that they're not rehearsing the exact thing you're trying to get rid of. Because we're still building good skills. And it's really hard to build good skills and then let them go rehearse the stuff we're trying to get rid of. Yeah.
So I've noticed at the beach with Molly, she doesn't have the greatest recall, but I'll try to do gotcha. And she's figured out that like, oh, that means the end. So she avoids me.
Yeah.
And so that turns it into a game.
So gotcha means the end. Okay. So what we want to do is change what Molly thinks that means. Okay. Gotcha is going to mean 3 treats and continue playing at the beach. So like every 5 minutes when she's out on the beach, I want you to do that. The first couple are going to be really hard because she's going to be like, she's going to be a real sketch, right? Because that's what she thinks. So it'd be a really good idea for her to run around just dragging. Even a 10-foot line would be good because then you can, if I wouldn't move straight at her, I would just grab the line, maybe walk up the line with your foot. Don't even reach down and grab it. And then I would say, gotcha, treat, 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 and then make sure to release her clearly. You would say free, that's her release cue, right? Free.
Okay.
Okay, so you'd say, okay, and then tell her go play or all done. So she knows all done or go play is the kind of end of session cue for letting the dog know you can go back to like digging holes at the beach. I don't care. I just wanted to grab you. Okay. Yeah, because that's a good example there where you're doing the right thing, but she's learned that you only do it at the end when fun time's over. So we have to, again, continue the brainwashing where we grab her and don't end the fun time. Okay. Yeah, it's a great question. Other questions? Yeah.
Yep. So after installing fences at my father's house, we will have his escape routes covered. But at my mother's house, I have to find a way to anchor her someplace because my mother loads musical instruments in and out of her house, and Spork regularly will just dash and even like take out anyone who's walking through the door. Can you like install a hook onto a post or something?
Oh yeah.
Okay, because that's like a management troubleshooting that I need to figure out for her because she's like, oh, but I can't have Spork tonight because I'm having to load musical equipment. She won't put up a crate. She won't put up a pen. She won't put up gates.
Yeah, training humans. Tether station, like just like over there.
Yeah.
Okay. And I highly recommend putting the leash on the doorknob and then a sign at eyeball level. Okay. Please leash Spork before opening this door. And if you just do that for a couple of weeks, it can be really, really helpful.
Okay. And she has big posts just like that one.
There you go. So perfect. Yeah. So that's just one of our 10-foot leashes.
Okay.
With the waistband clippy doohickey. Cool. Yeah. Great questions. So let's talk about kind of the recipes for teaching these really important skills. And then I'm going to give you guys some things to work on for the week with your dog. Okay. So we're going to start teaching stay and wait. And these are 2 variations that both mean I need you to hold still, but there's slight variations in where we use them and our expectations just to create some clarity for the dog as well. All right. So what's going to be important when we're teaching stay and wait is just that we are rewarding the dog for being patient. Okay, so while the dog's actually holding still, that's when our treats are being delivered. Like right now with Freddie, She's not being amazingly patient, but when she's on the bed, that's when she's getting the rewards. Okay, I would never say, and then give her a cookie over here, because getting up off the bed is the easy part. There's no reason to reward her at the end of a long stay. Okay, she's going to get rewarded while she's staying. So when we are teaching a formal, let's start with weight. Weight's a little bit easier. So weight is going to be used at thresholds, like the crate, the front door, the back door, crossing a street, getting in and out of your car. Think of it as like where the thresholds are. And that's a temporary stay. And because that's a scenario where the dog's not going to stay for 20 minutes, right? In none of those scenarios, your dog would need to stay for 20 minutes. Your dog's just going to hang out there for maybe 30 seconds until it's okay to move forward. And so in that scenario, what I want for you guys to start doing is saying wait. If you want to use a hand signal, it's open fingers. And we go down with your fingers like this or like this. It doesn't really matter, but it's open fingers and it's moving. I want you to think as though you're drawing the line that you don't want the dog to cross. Okay, so if it was free, banana. But there were so many cookies happening here. Good girl. So if I was doing weight like at our door, ready? We get your attention with your nose, with the nose. Yeah, the nose. Follow the nose. There we go. Good girl. Okay, so like if we were sitting here and it was at the door, what I would be doing is having her face the door, sitting at my side, kind of in the same way that we would in Essentials 1. And then I would say wait, and then we would go forwards together. So it would be either this way or this way. She honestly doesn't know it in this scenario. She knows it in the car, and she knows it at the front door, but she doesn't know it at my side yet. In this scenario with wait, we don't care if she was to like lay down or stand. Well, she could keep sitting ideally, but if we say wait, the goal is just that she doesn't go forward. Yeah, you kind of remember that, don't you? Yeah. Good girl. Yeah, you're too excited for cookies. All right, all done. I'm not giving you those ones. I had the high value treats in my hand, so now she's like, I can't even think straight. But wait is open fingers this way or this way, and when you release the dog, you don't need to give them any treats for that scenario, because moving forwards is a reward in and of itself. Like getting out of the car at the trailhead, plenty rewarding. Going on your walk after making them wait at the front door, plenty rewarding. Okay, but you can reward them while they're holding still. But the main reward comes after they move, because they're getting to go forward out of their crate, out of the house, out of the car. Does that make sense? Right.
Same thing with street corners.
Street corners, yep, all those things. You know, if you were at the curb and you said wait, and the dog transitions from sit or down or stand, who cares, as long as they don't cross the street, right? Wait is more of a safety cue. Yeah.
So with both of mine, waiting doesn't seem to be problematic, but the explosiveness with which they release is challenging sometimes. Like it makes me nervous that they are so like, and I think it's just an Aussie thing. I don't.
It's totally an Aussie. It's an energy Aussie thing for sure. What I would recommend that you do is if they leave explosively, make sure their leashes are on. Good dogs. And then we put them back and we do it again. And you're going to do it 5, 6 times until they are like, God, this is boring. And when you give their release cue, they just walk calmly. Then you can move on with your life. Similar to Molly, is that we don't want them to think that explosiveness is what gets us to move on in our day and go do the really fun stuff. We're going to do it until it's at the emotional level that you want, and then we get on with our day. So even just doing it 5 times at the front door, super, super effective. It'll take you less than 5 or 10 minutes. And then they'll learn. The quicker we calm down, the quicker we get to go do what we actually want to do. Because if you were to just do it once and then let them go play at the beach, you actually are rewarding that emotional state. If that makes sense. Yeah.
How about following up with a touch? Like I'm oftentimes in a kind of risky situation where I make Rigel wait at the top of a really steep place. And then I get to the bottom, and he's on leash. And then I get to the bottom and I make him do a touch at the bottom. That way he doesn't go screaming right past me. Mm-hmm. And that way it slows him down. But it doesn't necessarily.
I would make him do it again.
Okay.
You did a great job. Good boy. Here's your treat.
Yeah.
And go back up. We're doing it again.
Gotcha.
Until he's no longer doing it exclusively.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
My little dog Ringo used to do the same thing at the back slider. Like I would say, wait, he'd fly off the slider like 10 feet and go chase squirrels. And so we did it on the leash. Good boy, like release. And then he would go out, he'd hit the end of the leash and be like, wait, what? And we'd come back in and we'd do it again until he was bored. And then I would take the leash off and say, okay, now you can go in the backyard. And I don't really care if you chase squirrels, don't just come flying out of the house like that. Yeah. So with weight, you can also release at a distance, kind of the same way like you guys were talking about, like you're leaving him waiting at the top of the stairs, you're coming down, you're saying, okay, you can go. So with weight, we can also release at a distance because it is temporary. Okay, so we're creating some expectations here with weight, that weight's a little bit more loosey-goosey. I don't care the position. You're not going to stay there for very long. And I'm going to release you sometimes at a distance. And usually we're expecting that the reward comes at the end. You guys have already done this with like wait for the food dish, for example. That's a wait, right? It's temporary, it's short, there's a reward at the end. Okay. Now stay is going to be the exact opposite. Stay, we really want the dog to be there for a long period of time. So we're not going to walk away and never release them. If we're going to release them, we come all the way back to them and tell them that they can get up. So there's no expectation of excitement happening during a stay. There's no expectation that the people would walk away and call you, because we want the dog to get comfortable while they're staying. We want them to get bored while they're staying. Like, you're just going to be there for a while, get used to it. And we do also want to make sure that they hold the same position. So if you've said sit, stay, they're not allowed to lay down. If you've said down and stay, they're not allowed to sit or stand. They have to hold the same position while they're learning this, because that helps them understand concept. It's a slippery slope to getting up and walking away if they're allowed to like change positions. Then they're like, sweet, can I just go here too? And the answer is like, no, you have to hold the exact same position. Okay? And while they're staying, we're going to give them treats only while they're staying. When they get up, we're just going to release them by saying like, free, good girl, free, and no cookies. There doesn't need to be any cookies, because that's not the hard part. Okay, the hard part is actually doing the stay part. Did you guys see how when I released her, she kind of wanted to go right back to the bed anyways? That's the sort of brainwashing that we want, where she's like, what, why would I? What did you say? Oh, bug. That's kind of what we want for them to do, is we want for them to go want to set. Okay. Good girl. I was telling Emily at the beginning of the hour is that she is actually very, very good at hanging out on her bed when I'm working or when I'm eating. She will hang out and stay there for long periods of time. But when there's distractions like this is still something that she's working on. So I don't actually tell her stay right now in this type of a scenario, because I don't think it's likely to happen, right? We saw a fly, we got up, we got distracted. So I'm not saying STAY, but I am building patience by occasionally tossing her some treats. Okay, I'm using low value treats for the stay part here, because the high value treats will get her more excited and not build the relaxation that I'm looking for. Okay, so we're rewarding them for being patient while they're in a stay, and then we don't give them any treats for getting up. Okay, and they have to hold the position that we want, a sit or a down. Okay, so when we teach stay, we'll be doing it with duration first. That's how we build focus and patience and concept. Then we'll be working with distractions. Can you stay while there's a distraction around? So can they resist temptation? And then we will be saying stay and maybe playing around with walking away from it. But that's the last thing that we do, because we have to make sure that they understand concept with the other two things before we start walking away. So when you practice at home, we're thinking duration, then distractions, then walking away. Yeah.
What's the interplay between stay and place? Like, you know, with Birdie, you're trying to get her, she can do place pretty well, but getting her to stay there longer. So then I'm like, should I say stay? Or I mean, I'm not, because she doesn't know that, but what's kind of that?
I would do what I'm doing
interplay?
here, which is
Okay.
like just hang out and
Yeah.
occasionally toss some cookies over there.
Mhm.
If she gets antsy or vocalizes, then you just release her and send her back and do it again.
Mhm.
Because you're right, it's like it's not a formal stay
Right.
quite yet.
Yes.
So
That's what it is.
think about like building concept of relaxation.
Yeah.
More important.
Okay.
And then when we have the relaxation, then we'll say,
yeah,
kind of like what we did when we taught leave it.
Mhm.
Right? Like we didn't say leave it when the dog's like, I'm gonna eat that cookie. We're just doing it when the dog understands the concept. Rachel, are you gonna go get sport?
Yeah,
Okay.
since she's not barking right now, I think I'd like to release her before she does start whining.
Okay, let's try. Actually, she's settled. Do you think she's gonna whine again?
She's currently about to finish off a second hoof.
Okay, let's try it. And if that is a little distracting, we'll have to send her back.
Yes, that's fair.
Okay, so any other questions about stay or wait? Sarah? Maybe?
Well, I guess I don't know, I'm feeling somewhat nervous about trying to set this up because when there's the two playing off of each other, yeah, like I feel like it's hard to get them to, if one moves, then they both move kind of a thing, and so
Yeah,
then
train
it's
them one
hard
at a
to get them
time.
separate
I know.
to do that work, so I don't know.
It
there's
is
no
possible to
question.
do two at once, but you're going to have to download and watch my Double Trouble lessons. During COVID, I did a 6-week course on Double Trouble, which is training 2 dogs at once. And most trainers will say, you can't do it. You have to separate them. Yes, that is easier, but you can do it. It's an additional skill set for you to have on top of the other skills that you're trying to teach them. So those are downloadable on our website. They're like $30 a lesson. And I would download at least the first 2 lessons. That will give them some foundational skills to start teaching them how to do a little bit of waiting while you're working with the other one. You can, it's a lot. You have to pay attention to who's doing what and why you're rewarding it. And so it kind of requires 4 eyeballs and 3 hands, but it's possible. You can do it. Or yes, we strategically separate. Yeah. Let's see. So working on come. Come is the super, super important one, and it's the easiest one for us to screw up. Okay, because we like to say it when it's not going to happen. And we want to make sure that our dogs really think it's always worthwhile. So I like to tell everybody, let's just get up and try this. You know, your friend's working over there. Huh? Yeah, thank you. I like to tell people that the recipe for getting your dog to come when they're called is to make sure that you have their attention. That is the most important thing, that they are looking at you before you even say come. Most people say the dog's name and come in the same breath, and the dog isn't even looking at them. So we have to make sure that we have their attention. Then we have to make sure they understand the word, and the word's only being used in that scenario. Lots of people will say come when their dog is out on a walk. And if your dog is attached to a leash and you're just doing a regular old walk, that's not a time to say come. We should be saying let's go, or this way, or walk with me. That just kind of usually means, hey, I'm changing directions and I want you to go with me, right? But that's not a scenario for you to say come or come on. That's confusing for dogs. So we want to be really, really clear about the words that we're saying so that we're setting an expectation. We're going to teach a hand signal, which is always helpful. We know dogs respond better to our body language. So you guys are going to work with having a fist start at your chest, and then you extend your elbow out to your side. The dog is able to see that very easily from a distance. And that's going to be the hand signal for come. Super, super easy to teach. Okay. And we're going to use that because we know that the words are easy for dogs to hear but not listen to, right? So we're going to use the hand signals to help ourselves out with that. Okay, so we need to have their attention. We need to make sure they understand the cue, both the verbal and the hand signal. And then the hardest part is making sure that they are motivated to return to you. Okay? Motivation is why most dogs don't come when they're called, because we've said it a whole bunch of times in scenarios that the dogs learned were not rewarding. They said, come and gave me a bath. Or they said, come here, and then put me in the crate and went to work. Okay? Or they said, come, and then we left the dog park. Or I was chasing a deer and they said, come, and I came back and I got 1 biscuit, but chasing the deer was a lot more fun. So next time they say come, I'm not going to come back because I know it's just going to be a biscuit. So we've accidentally taught our dogs that it's not worthwhile to come back. Okay, so the motivation is the big part. I want to show you guys first, Free, you're being lovely, what it looks like. So that you guys can start to diagnose with your dog Free. If they have an attention problem at any moment when you call them, or if they have a motivation problem at any moment when you call them. Okay. She can do whatever she wants. I'm not using her. I'm going to actually be the dog. Okay. So I want for you guys to just call me. You're just going to say Jen, come. Okay. But I'm a dog. Okay. And I want for you guys to think about whether or not I'm the kind of dog that has an attention problem or a motivation problem. Okay, so I'm your dog. I'm running away and chasing a deer. I want you to call me.
Jen, come.
Jen, come.
All
Is that an attention problem or a motivation problem?
Motivation.
Motivation, how'd you know?
Because they looked at you but kept going.
Right, I was like, is it worth it?
You gave us the eyes.
I was like, nope, okay. So now call me again, I'm taking it here. Jen,
Jen, come.
Jen,
Jen, come. Attention problem or motivation problem?
Attention.
Attention problem, right? I didn't even look at you, okay? So when we're working with our dogs and you call your dog, if they don't respond, I want you to immediately go, attention or motivation? Okay, the dog doesn't even look at you, it's an attention problem. If they look at you and don't return, it's a motivation problem. Okay, you should release Fork. She looks a little worried. There you go. I just don't want her to feel trapped. Yeah. All right. I'll call my dog right now. Ready? Yes, good girl, good girl. Okay, so I don't have either with her, right? She hustles right on over here. And notice the reinforcement I'm gonna give her, okay? It's one treat broken up into like 7 pieces here. So she gets a lot of reinforcement for coming when she's called. And because it's super, super important to me that my dog comes the second that I call her. Okay, pretty, good girl, thanks everyone. Good girl. So, good Chica. So knowing whether or not it's an attention or a motivation problem is really important for your recalls. But the other half of it is making sure that you set your dog up for success. So most important thing this week for everybody's homework is get a long line if you don't already have one. Okay, you need a 20 to 40 foot line depending on how fast your dog is, because that gives us time and space to let our dogs exercise themselves. If there's no distractions, you don't need a long line, but if there could be a distraction, you need a long line. And the most important reason we're using that is so they don't get the reward, right? They don't get to go say hi to the dog. They don't get to go say hi to the person or chase the deer. You are using that to create a boundary so they don't get the reinforcement that they're hoping to get in that scenario. So you've said come, they may or may not come, but the important thing is just that they don't get that reinforcement. So even if they ignore you, they've learned that not coming doesn't mean they get to go get the good things. Because we just don't want them to get rewarded from the environment when we're trying to build up rewards coming from us. All right. One of the things that I recommend that you guys do is to get one of these box clickers. They're really loud. They're great for outside use, especially when you're working on things at a distance. So box clickers can be really, really helpful compared to our little button style ones that are quiet. It's in this pocket, you know, there's a huge difference there. All right, so this works. Oh, what did you find? Oh, you found Sporky's hook. What a good choice. Good girl. Good girl. Beagle strikes again. Sorry, Sport.
I love her leaps.
I know.
The ears flop. Yeah. So we're gonna work on mostly getting our dog's ability to pay attention to us at a distance, and then we will work on distractions, and then we will work on being able to get our dog's attention when they're running quickly away. Again, working towards layers of difficulty there. One of the things I wrote down here is that I want for you guys to pay attention to when your dog is moving around is that it's easier to get your dog's attention when their feet are slower. So if you're watching them wander around and sniff in the yard or on the beach or in a field, watch for their feet. And the slower the feet are, the easier it is to get their attention. Okay? If they're moving really, really fast, it's a lot harder to get their attention. Okay? And if you can't get their attention or if they're not motivated, that means we need to get closer to them. We can reduce the distractions and we need to reevaluate our rewards. Because the dogs are always kind of doing that cost benefit analysis. Is it worth it? Okay, so this is a time in your dog's training when it behooves you to have a variety of treats, and then even like your backup to the backup treats, just in case I've got something super yummy that can stump all distractions if needed. What questions do you guys have about Yeah.
You said 20 to 40 foot for the leash.
Yeah.
What you said, if they're faster, is that shorter if they're faster or longer? Okay.
Longer.
Okay.
Right. Because if you imagine she saw something and took off.
Yeah, she's immediately.
You're just going to grab the line.
Yes.
That's your
Okay.
goal.
Gotcha.
So, yes.
Okay.
The faster the dog, the longer the line.
Okay.
Because we're not expecting you to be able to catch the dog,
Yeah.
but the line is your
Gotcha,
safe.
gotcha.
Yeah, and you can hang on to the line or you can drop it. I recommend you dropping it as much as possible because
Mhm.
that emulates the off-leash scenario the most.
Mhm.
If they can see you holding the line or feel you holding the line, it doesn't translate to real off-leash work as much. If you're holding it, just make sure it's really slack and you're not using a lot of tension on it.
Yeah.
Because then they're like, oh, I know you're,
Yeah.
you gotta hold it. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
So in contrast to the slower feet, when she stops moving her feet, she is unresponsive completely. And so we'll just be hanging out in the backyard. She's unresponsive. And she's not necessarily very far away, but what should I do to help her?
Get closer.
Okay.
Always get closer. Yep. And that's usually because she's sniffing something. So
She sees something and
oh, she's having her bird dog.
Yep.
Yeah. So that would be a good scenario to practice. Look at that on a leash, and then look at that on a 10-foot leash. Look at that on a 20-foot leash. That would be something you could do too. Yeah, that's a great question. Okay, and so then the other thing I want for you to do for homework is I want you to evaluate your treats, your reinforcers, any motivators you have at your disposal. What is your dog most motivated by? And I want you to also make a list of the distractions that your dog is motivated by and start paying attention to if there's dogs, what do I need that's gonna beat dogs? Because my dog needs to make the decision to move away from dogs and come to me. What is the thing over here that I have as ammo that I could use? Or what things on this list could I combine if needed to deal with the distractions that my dog is up against in those scenarios? Yeah,
Sorry, this is kind of a side thing.
sure, that's okay.
You mentioned earlier with Freddie, and I feel like you noticed this, the good treats, like she just gets so excited that then she's just like out of her mind. So
Mine
I'm
or
like,
yours?
yeah, mine.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
mine too.
Oh yeah. So then I'm like, okay, those are the good treats that are motivating. But then like, you know, even when we're practicing like greetings and stuff, then she's just like jumping all over the place because of the treats. So I'm like, it's, how do you find that balance, I guess? Or
I would say if you think she's getting overly excited, it's time to downgrade the treats for that skill set. in particular.
okay. So tailor it to
For the skill set and the scenario.
Yeah.
Right. Like on a day when she's really under exercised and you're doing a greeting, she might need the higher value stuff. Right. But if she is really, really hungry on that day, but well exercised, you might need lower value to keep the excitement level.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Yeah, and then you can also say if anybody has a scenario where your dog is paying too much attention for the treats, you can also say all done. Like that's a good scenario of like letting them know like she will literally heel next to me like this off leash on a hike, and she's like cookies, you got cookies, because I have the good off leash cookies, right? So I tell her like I'm not giving you any more right now, and then when I do that, she literally like completely disengages from me and goes to sniff bushes because she knows I've said that I'm not giving you any treats for right now.
Thank you.
all done. What's a way you can train that in reps?
I would practice like sit and down a couple of times in a row, then say all done and sprinkle some treats on her bed, and then you disengage from her completely for 3 to 5 minutes. Okay. Or if you're out on a walk and you've said it, don't give her any cookies until you've decided to cue a behavior. Like Freddie will give me lots of offered attention out on a hike off leash after I called her and gave her a ton of treats. Right. But when she does that, I say all done, and then I don't give her any treats. I'll just praise her and tell her she's cute, but I don't give her any treats till I've cued the next behavior. Yeah.
So there are still things that overwhelm little guy, and like I don't think it's because of the value of the treat. I think it's just like he's feeling unsafe and he wants to check something out.
Yeah, I think that tracks for him for sure.
Like, is there? I've noticed that if I move down to his level and put the treats on the ground, it can bring him back sooner.
Huge, love that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Ready? Can you practice, please?
Yeah, we've heard of duck.
A duck. Ooh. That's a big deal. Get it. It can be a big deal. Okay, so last couple of things is just loose leash walking. You know, that's a big one and that's a hard one. So with loose leash walking, the biggest thing to just know is that we need to be really, really consistent in your leash handling skills. So I gave you guys all leashes that we can practice with today. And then the quick and dirty answer is just having a higher rate of reinforcement. Okay, sometimes we need to give our dog a treat like every 2 steps in order to keep them next to us when there's a big distraction around. So what I want for you guys to practice today, where's my picture? Is I want for you to practice clicking and treating like every step or so with your dog this week. And I want you to do it in the house first, just as a starting point. Because most of us don't reward often enough. And then the dog learns that they can pay attention as long as the food is like right here, but as soon as the food disappears, off they go. Okay. So the first thing that I want for you guys to try this week is what we call the Wonder Puppy sequence. The Wonder Puppy sequence is working on getting your puppy's attention, clicking and treating them. Then we ask them to sit with either your hand signal or a verbal cue. That's not what we're, yeah, I know. Life is just so exciting. There it is, thank you, good girl. And then, I mean, your dogs know how to do those 2 things, but then we're gonna start saying, let's go. So we say, let's go, and then we click and treat immediately. I just took 2 steps, okay? And I've lost her attention, so we're gonna start back over again. Ready? There you are, good girl. I give her a treat for attention. I'm gonna ask her to sit and give her a treat for that. And then I'm gonna say, let's go. And click and treat right away, right? The idea with the Wonder Puppy sequence is that it gives you a protocol for what to do when your dog inevitably gets distracted. Okay, as long as I have her attention, I can say, let's go, and we keep on walking. Okay, that's great. As long as I have her attention, we can keep moving. We're gonna click and treat. But the minute that I lose her attention, I just start back over with trying to get her attention. And I need you to get distracted for a second. There we go. So I work on attention, and I'm gonna see, do I have her ability to even get her to sit? Because now she's distracted, right? Yeah, that's the only reason we're doing the sit, is just to see, can she respond to a basic cue? So if she can't even do a sit, there's no reason for me to try walking forwards. Okay, let's go. Good girl. You see how I rewarded her right away? There you are. Good girl. Still thinking about the distraction. So that treat could be a person, that could be a dog she wants to say hi to, right? I'm not going to let her go forwards to it unless she is walking nicely. You can see how she struggled to do her sit there for a second because she's really, really distracted. Let's go. Good girl. She can have it if she gets there with her leash being loose. I don't care about that. Okay, so the idea with the Wonder Puppy sequence is to practice good shake off. I know that's hard. Is to practice what to do when your dog gets distracted. Can we get her attention? Can she do a basic like a sit? Okay, if she can't, then we're not going forward. We're going to stick with attention and can you sit? And okay, now your brain's on. Now we're going to try walking. Okay, if she's really, really focused, it's going to look like this. Like, let's go. And we click and treat. Let's go. And we click and treat. And we just keep walking. Let's go. Right? And no matter what, I'm going to give her a click and treat like every couple of steps so that she stays connected with me. That's what nice loose leash walking is that the dog can pay attention enough that when I change directions, she's connected with me. She doesn't have to be staring at me the whole time like she's doing right now. But we want for the dog to be able to get a click and a treat every couple of steps for walking nicely with us. Okay, so I want you guys to try that this week when you're out and about on a walk, is if your dog starts to pull, I want you to stop your feet. That's really important. When the dog pulls and we keep going, and we're actually letting them think that's the way we want it to happen. So you're gonna stop your feet, get your dog's attention, see if they can sit. And if they can sit, then we say, let's go. But we're gonna start clicking and treating for the walking. More treats for walking than for the attention or the sit. Okay. So what, do you guys have any questions about the Wonder Puppy sequence? Okay, grab that leash. I want to show you guys some leash handling techniques. Hurry, open. What I want for you to try, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 7, 8. Okay, there's an even number of people. What I'm gonna have you guys try is some actual leash handling techniques. What I want for you guys to practice doing is learning how to do feather, follow, and anchor. These are how we handle our leashes so that we're not actually causing the pulling we're trying to get rid of. Okay, the easiest one is follow. Follow means your dog's trying to find a potty spot, your dog is walking really quickly, you're in a rush, you know, any moment where you just don't want the dog to practice pulling, follow means you walk as fast as your dog wants to walk, and you keep the leash relaxed by you being attentive to where your dog is going. Okay, a lot of dogs pull just because we're slow. So following means you're gonna walk quickly. Claire, actually, can you grab the handle of this and I'm gonna demo it really quickly. Let's say Claire's my dog and she wants to go anywhere she wants to go. I'm gonna follow her where she wants to go. But if you pull, go ahead and pull, right? This is me doing what's called anchor. Okay, I've braced myself, my hip is pointing towards her and I'm keeping my elbows bent so that no matter how hard she pulls, she's not gonna knock me over or get my feet moving. Okay, anchoring is important. As soon as you feel any tension whatsoever, stop. It's really, really important that you anchor quickly and as soon as you feel leash tension, so that the dog doesn't get confused about, am I allowed to have more leash because your arm is now being this big bungee? Right, so we need to anchor and be totally stationary. And then the other thing is, if she's being a really perfect dog, like I know she's going to be, then we are feathering and holding the extra leash here just to keep ourselves from tangling on it and stepping on it. But we're never going to steer with your hand here in the middle, and we're never going to anchor with the hand here in the middle unless it were an emergency. All right. For the most part, we need to let the dog have all 6 feet because it's a dog walk. It's the dog's leash. We're going to let them have that freedom. Okay. So what I want for you guys to do is pair up with a leash, and I want for you to practice feathering, following, and anchoring. I want you to get comfortable with your leash handling techniques so that you can, if the dog pulls suddenly, you're pretty quick about bracing at your center with your elbows bent instead of letting the dog pull your arm out like this. And I also want you to practice feathering the extra leash too, because it's really hard for us to stop hanging out with the leash here in the middle and steering here. Okay, so everybody grab a leash and a buddy. Thank you, Ashley. Look what else you found! You're so
All right.
great. Good job.
Yes, I'll go.
Good.
Oh, what?
Thank you.
right.
I'm gonna set my bag up for you to
Okay.
set it in there. Yep.
All right.
Is she finding this from your bag?
Yeah. Yeah.
I have taught her to bring things to her.
Oh, thank you. Yep.
Good, fine.
Good. I know, I saw it.
There you go. When you anchor, put both your hands at your belly. Pull on her again, Jason.
Okay, sure.
And let it slide. Yeah, there you go. You let it slide until you have both hands at the handle.
And then when do you start feathering again?
When there's
loosen up a
no
little bit?
tension.
Right. Yeah, like just like you did there, like you were picking up the slack a little bit. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. There you go.
Jen, I don't have.
Oh,
So feathering is in the middle, correct?
yeah. So like I'm walking really close to you.
Right.
And then I start to pull. You're gonna let it slide through your hands until you get to the handle, and then you. Okay. So try it again, like we're walking together this way.
Yeah.
I get distracted. Woo! Yes. Okay. Cool. There you go. Yeah. Everybody get a chance to be the trainer, and everybody get a chance to be the dog.
Yeah.
Okay. It's silly, but it's a very good thing for you guys to do at home, even with the other humans in your house, and to give yourselves times to give yourself a chance to get used to how to handle it. Because when you're actually working with the dog, you're thinking about the dog so much, and you're going to forget about what your body is doing. So it needs to become muscle memory habit for you, because how we handle the leash really affects their off leash reliability, and it affects whether or not they pull a lot. Okay, and you should be clipping your 6-foot leashes to the front of a harness if you have a harness. Okay, if you're working on a long line, clip it to the back. Because if they take off at 20 feet, I don't want them to go, you know, if they hit that long line on the front. It has to be clipped to the back if you're using a long line.
Is this a bad exercise for a head collar? Okay.
Yes, yes. You know, and one of the things that I want for you guys to try to do is let's see if we can get her to do it on just the harness. And then you can bring the gentle leader if she's super, super distracted in class, but let's see if we can get her to do it on a harness. And then you'll only use the gentle leader if she's having a really, really hard day or there's a lot of distractions. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for bringing those things to me. That was very good. Yes, that was very good. Yes, you're flop. Yes, you're flop. Yes, you're flop. So that was one of the things that I actually taught her, was that I knew as a beagle, she would never not find food, right? She's going to always find food. There's no saying that she can't find food. So I just taught her, if you find it, bring it to me, and I will share a little bit, and then I will put it away. So I was very proud of that. Thank you. That's very good. Very silly. Okay, so only other thing I want for you guys to do this week with your dogs is to teach them to put their paws up on an obstacle. Those of you that have done puppy 2, your dogs have been doing this for a while, but kids that come right from Essentials 1 have never done this before. This is a foundational skill, just like sit. Once your dog knows sit, you can teach a ton of other things. Obstacle work is exactly the same. Once they know this, we can teach a ton of other things. And in this class, we're going to use it a lot for distraction work and stay. So what we're going to do, if your dog has never done this before, and you're just going to start by just putting some treats right on the top of it, because they will sometimes be afraid of it or a little bit weirded out by it. What I don't want you to do is like tap on it, because then the dog will only get up there if you go down here and do this. And we don't want to have to do that forever. So you're just going to start by feeding them some free treats right on the top of it. And then what you're going to make sure of is that you and the obstacle and the dog are in a straight line, and the obstacle's between you. Okay? Because then what you can do is put a treat right on their nose, draw it over the center of the obstacle where you were just feeding your dog, and then bring your hand a little bit up. And most dogs will at least stretch for the treat and try to get it. And that's rewardable. Some dogs, you're going to get real lucky. They'll put their paws right up there. We're going to click as soon as the paw lands on the obstacle. So it would look like this. You click as soon as the paw touches. That first paw gets a click and a treat. Okay, so we're starting on her nose. As soon as her paw touches the obstacle, I'm giving her click and her treat. Some dogs will try to get the cookie and then dance around it. They come around. Okay, if they come around, you'll just come around, trying to keep the obstacle between the two of you. So if your dog tries to go around it, you're just going to go around it too, so that you guys are always have the obstacle between you and the dog. And if this is really challenging, what I recommend doing is just getting something giant, like your ottoman, something really big that makes it really obvious to the dog that they're putting their paws up. When it's small, it's a little bit harder for the dog. Okay. And what we want for this skill is just 2 paws up. We don't want 4 paws. Okay. And ideally, we want the paws as stationary as possible. You are being super, super wiggly, which is not what we want. That's the stillness right there that we're looking for. So we want still feet. That's going to help with using this as an emotional grounding skill: calmness, focus, patience, impulse control. So this is a really, really helpful one for that. Good job. Still. So I like to reward them for getting up there a couple times in a row and staying stationary. And then we can use our release cue, free, to help the dog get off just by walking away. So this is not a fancy piece of dog training equipment. Touch. Thank you. This is just a feed pan, okay, from like the feed store. But you can use an Amazon box. You can, some dog dishes are sturdy enough for you to be able to use. Anything like that is fine. And you're going to want one for at home as well, but we will provide them here for you in class. Okay. Question.
Wiggle. I cannot get Rigel for any duration on it. He just wiggles all over the place, and he's down. And he keeps his 2 front paws on it, but he's always going around and doing, and then he'll step one off and he'll step the other off, and I'm trying to click and treat for the right behavior. And
Okay, so then let's do click and treat for getting up there, and then the minute that he wiggles, I want you to release it.
Okay.
So it's gonna look like this. Like she's a little wiggly right now, so that's a good example. Click. Right, here's my stationary stuff. And then if she were to wiggle, I would immediately release her. Now she's, I mean, she's probably holding still more than Rigel would, I can imagine.
Oh, yeah.
He's probably already wiggling right now. So if he were to wiggle, like there was a wiggle, right? Free, we just start all over.
Gotcha.
So that they kind of understand the point is to hold still. Like if I wait long enough here without feeding her. Free. Did you see it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good girl. Good job. Free. And basically what you're teaching them is opportunity for cookie, start over. You only get the cookie if you're holding still. Good girl. Oh, I fumbled it. That's mom's fault. There you go. All done.
What about a nose bump? have you struggled with that where click and then like Oliver will like bump my leg right after I click?
Oh, yeah.
Because sometimes.
He's like, you didn't give me my treat fast enough?
Yeah, kind of, like it's more of a, I don't know.
Rigel does that too.
Where's the nose bump
It
happening?
reminds me of a goat kid, like.
I know a lot of dogs that will
looking
nose
for-
bonk you, like your treat pouch if you're not fast enough, or, you know, yeah, your knee if you're not fast enough. If you've clicked, you have to feed.
Yeah, that's the
Okay.
trick.
Mhm. So what I would maybe think about doing is, that's probably a scenario where I would cheat and have the food in my hand, but away from where the dog expects it. Like if the dog's always gravitating towards your right hip, then it would be, my cookie is over here. I'm gonna go drop it on the ground to get her off of my body and away from gravitating towards my treat pouch. The trick to this one, I'm gonna do it in a better way than I would normally. When she's picking that one up off the ground, I'm gonna reload my left hand. So I actually don't want her to see me holding onto the treat either, right? So this is a great example where we are gonna use the waist leash. Thank you. So we're gonna do touch, cookie, and then now I'm reloading so she doesn't see it. Cookie. There it is, good girl. Oh, I forgot that time. Did you see? I was a little slow. Reloading right now. There we go. Reloading right now. Reset treats are the best time to reload because the dog doesn't see you putting food in your hand. So dogs are, I refer to this as a treat gravity problem. Okay, do you see where Freddie is orienting after she does the touch? She's now moving to my left a little bit because she's now figuring out where the treat was coming from. Okay, so dogs that really like their food have treat gravity problems. They're like, I know where it's coming from. The treat pouch has its own gravity and I'm sucked towards it and I can't help it. So what you have to start teaching them is that the food could come from anywhere. That just requires us to be a little bit more sneaky about where the treat is coming from so that we're balancing out any issues that are caused by treat gravity. So right now she's doing a touch here, but the food's coming from over there. Right? So that's a way that you can deal with that problem. And now I could have a little bit more time to deliver the food without getting a nose boot or some other sort of demanding behavior where they like to hustle. Yeah, I call that the hustle. Like, come on, feed me. Okay, so that means we need to practice with your treat pouch behind you more. Learn to be a little ambidextrous and, you know, do that like this some a little bit more. Because see where she now is good. She's a little bit better about staying on my left side. But it's very, very common for her to always be over here by my right because I'm right-handed and that's where my treat pouch usually is a lot. So being a little bit more ambidextrous is really helpful for eventually getting rid of your treats as well. Those are all super good questions. Any other questions before we call it a day today? All right. So big things to do is to work on your Wonder Puppy sequence, get your long line, evaluate your treat system and the distractions that you're up against in real life with your dog, and then work on teaching your dog to get up on obstacles if you haven't done that yet. Okay? All right, sweet. We're all done for today. All done, everyone. All done.
Thank you.
All right, see you next week.
Question.
Yeah.
Would it be too much to have rides? I'm thinking about the fun agility class. Just because he is super good. I'm already trying to get him to, get up on stumps and walk a log and things like
I don't
that.
think it'd be bad for him. It's not on the same day, is it?
No,
that's
actually
fine.
Sundays are really hard for us.
Yeah, no, I would say as long as it's not on the same day,
Yeah,
all dogs can handle class 2 days a week.
okay,
Yeah.
okay, very good. I'm gonna talk to Lane about that because I think it'd be really good. If we're gonna take him backpacking this summer, we need him to be able to do certain things.
Oh,
Go up
yeah.
and over and, walk a log and.
Totally. Cool. Okay,
All right,
all
thank you.
done. You did a very good job. Orientations are hard for you, huh? Good. You should give sport girl back
Oh, he stays here.
though. You silly girl.
Have a good rest of your day.
Thanks. You too, Heather. You guys gonna work over here? Yep. I will leave the door book. Thank you. Thank you for sealing your touch liner. Right? I have also learned that lesson the hard way. Yeah. You were so proud of yourself when you found it.
She was.
Yes, I was.